Well, good morning. Thank you for joining us bright and early for a little Ecclesiastes. It doesn't make sense in the middle of the day, but maybe it makes sense at 6 a.m. Or 6:30, I guess. Just a little reminder, we're not dealing with normal scripture where God says and we should, or telling the story of someone. This is just a unique form of writing. It's we call it today wisdom literature. I'm not sure what the ancient word was, but it's designed to take you down sort of paths of thought. It's not going to give you the answer easily. It's going to make you work for it. Everything that we talk about today has a degree of truth to it, but it's not the ultimate truth. They're trying to piece it together for you. So try to avoid the temptations either to explain away everything. I mean, that's our impulse, right? We want to add our own spiritual layer to it. Oh, well, he means this, he means this. For this to have its effect, let it take you down these thoughts, and then you can decide, well, this is right, this is wrong. They're trying to get you to think. The other thing that we tend to do is just reject it altogether. But that's all better than sort of drinking the poison that we talked about and it destroying your faith. These questions that Solomon is going to raise for us are legitimate, are things that we see in life that challenge us. So just to ground this a little bit, I want to read some other wisdom literature to get us started this morning. This one comes out of Egypt. And remember, most wisdom literature is written under the guise of a father to a son, or a wise person to a student, or a king to a son, stuff like that. And that's exactly what this is. This is wisdom literature written by a pharaoh that was assassinated to his son. Now, how he wrote it after he died, we don't know, right? It's a little Macbeth if you sort of follow that. But he's the pharaoh that's died is telling his son about trusting people, which it reminds me a lot of what Solomon ends up saying today. But so it reads, it was after supper. Night had come. I was taking an hour of rest, lying on my bed, for I was weary. As my heart began to fall asleep, weapons for my protection were turned against me. While I was like a snake in the desert, I woke at the fighting, alert, and found it was combat of the guard. So what's happening to him? Yeah, he's about to get killed, and who's doing it? His guards. They've turned against him. Had I quickly seized weapons in my hand, I would have made the cowards retreat in haste. But no one is strong at night. No one can fight alone. No success is achieved without a helper. So we'll see Solomon sort of follow this. Thus bloodshed occurred while I was without you. Before the courtiers had heard, I would hand it over to you. Before I sat with you, so to advise you. For I had not prepared for it, had not expected it, had not foreseen it, foreseeing the failing of servants. He goes on to complain, don't help anybody. I raised these men from nothing. I made them. I gave them wealth and power and title, and it was never enough. And at the end, they betrayed me. And he says, don't trust anybody. Well, that's true after a fashion. You can't trust anybody. But can you live a life where you don't trust anybody? Yeah. So about 500 years before we're reading here, I think you'll hear some echoes, but they're doing the same kind of thing. Think through this with me. What happened? What was my experience? What was true? What was not true? So we'll pick up chapter 4. We're just zooming through this book. Chapter 4, verse 1. Again, I observed all the oppression that takes place under the sun. I saw the tears of the oppressed, with no one to comfort them. The oppressors have great power, and their victims are helpless. So I concluded that the dead are better off than the living. But most fortunate are those who have not yet been born, for they have not seen all the evil that is done under the sun. Yeah, wow. You need to go back to the therapist, buddy. Get your medication changed, right? So what is he talking about? What's this oppression?
Don't have to deal with reality. Don't want to deal with reality.
Yeah. What role does Solomon have in society? Yeah, he's number one oppressor. Hello, I'm the king. Who oppresses me? Nobody. That's my job. But we'll maybe give him the benefit of the doubt that he's looked around. So, I mean, who would be the oppressed around? Yeah, there's slavery in Israel. So that's not good. The poor, yeah. Who else? To a certain degree, women, yeah. Although if you've ever met a Jewish woman, not so oppressed. They can hold their own. Solomon has a bit of an empire himself. A lot of smaller neighboring tribes, really, have been brought into his larger kingdom. Moabites, I'm thinking of Edomites, groups like that. So they're controlled by his empire. But it reminds me of a lot of today, right? We have all these Ivy League kids on campus who have lived a charmed, beautiful life, and they're talking about the oppression. The people must be delivered. Really? From their trust funds? Or, what exactly are you talking about? Now, we know from both the Bible, but also archaeology, that Solomon's reign was an incredible transformation from Israel. I mean, they went from a very poor kind of tribal confederation to a very strong regional power with incredible wealth. I mean, he gets control of those trade routes, and money just flows in. And so the buildings just explode. One of the big things that we have discovered, and it's fun, are Solomon's stables. So remember, David and his gang, they couldn't afford to even keep horses. God said, don't bother with them. You can't feed them. They're too much. And Solomon had, to date, 4 major stable complexes. I mean, these aren't just a couple of stables. These are, 20, 60 stall, massive structures. And he's got them in multiple cities. A friend of mine, being like Kurt, said, it's interesting that we have discovered Solomon's stables, but not his harems, because we knew what he took care of. So he built the stables to last, maybe not the harems. We've never found where he kept all these ladies. Presumably he would have to keep them in multiple cities. But so on the surface, and on many levels, Solomon, it's a boom. He does incredible things. But he also does something that he's never forgiven for. just by way of getting our brains working, little history of Israel, right? Where did they live before they went to the Promised Land? Egypt, and they were there as long-term tourists, right? What did they do in Egypt? They were slaves. And so we say that, and we think sort of the European version of slavery. You're my slave. You come work in my house. I own you. All that kind of stuff. But really, when we look at it in context, it is slavery, but it's different. Egypt was an absolute autocracy. Pharaoh owned everybody and everything, and Pharaoh would lend you land and lend you life, but it all belonged to him. And so one of the reasons Pharaoh was so powerful is because you had to pay taxes. Now, not just taxes in terms of what you produced, but also taxes in terms of labor. You owed the state a certain amount of labor. Now, the Nile floods in late summer, early fall, a little bit earlier than now. And for about 3 months, the land is covered in water. So everything kind of slows down. You really can't take care of your farm. Roads, boundaries are all kind of washed away. And so this became the natural time in which people would go and serve in some sort of project. This is how they built the pyramids. The pyramids were not built by slaves. They were built by an entire nation doing its income tax, if you will, with labor to Pharaoh. Now, Pharaoh was responsible for feeding you and housing you, transporting you, but you owed him this service. Archaeologically or historically, we call this corvée labor. It's a French word, but it means service through labor, service through toil. So when the Hebrews were in Egypt, they were subject to this as well. Okay, so were the native Egyptians. But what we see happening in Exodus is that it becomes punitive towards the Hebrews, right? Not everybody was called up every year, but the Hebrews were. Not everybody, would have their wages withheld or their supplies like the straw withheld. So the Egyptians were treating them sort of like everybody else, but on a very different level. The Egyptians were abusing the system because they wanted to control the numbers of Semites. So Solomon begins to build things. He builds palaces. He builds the temple. And let's flip over. It's the King's passage. I can't remember. So we read this in English, and it doesn't really get our attention too much. But 1 Kings 5, then King Solomon conscripted a labor force of about 30,000 men from all of Israel. He had sent them to Lebanon in shifts, 10,000 every month, so that the men would have, each man would be 1 month in Lebanon and 2 months at home. Adoniram was in charge. There we go. All right, so what did he just do?
He hired them out.
Yeah, but he conscripted them. What is that? He forced them to do it. Guess what? You're drafted. You've won today's lottery to leave your home, go up, cut down trees, come back. Now, they'll go on to explain that Solomon has other laborers too, but he's supplementing this labor force that he has with forcing his own people to serve the state, just like they did in Egypt. Now, how do you think that went down? Samuel warns the people, you don't want a king. Yes, we do. We want to be like everybody else. We want to be great. No, you don't want a king. Yes, we do. Well, you got a king, and he's a great king. He's magnificent. He's wealthy and powerful. Now, the difference is, in Egypt, you do kind of have that 3 months of, well, I'm not doing anything else, where in Israel, you don't have that. Israel sort of runs in a rotation of 3 wet seasons and 3 growing seasons. So when you're forced to leave your home and leave your kid to try to deal with the small farm, it's a mess. This will be a major blow for the people. David, this is strange, but I mean, you need to read the text. David is not well loved by his people. He's pretty hated. He was so bloody. Solomon is a mixed bag. They don't revolt against Solomon, but as soon as he's dead, they break up. They don't want any more of this. Continuing on in Kings, this is right after Solomon's death, and Solomon's son Rehoboam has come to the throne. And the first thing that people ask is, no more corvée labor. Do not conscript us anymore, period. We're not slaves for Pharaoh, and we're not slaves for you. So Rehoboam went to Shechem, where all Israel had gathered to make him king. When Jeroboam, son of Nebat, heard of this, he returned from Egypt. So this is a guy that's going to lead a revolt against Jeroboam, for he had fled to Egypt to escape from King Solomon. The leaders of Israel summoned him and said, Jeroboam, the whole assembly of Israel went to speak with Rehoboam. Your father was a hard master, they said. Lighten the harsh labor demands. Add heavy taxes that your father imposed on us. Then we will be your loyal subjects. Rehoboam replied, give me 3 days to think this over, then come back for my answer. So the people went away. And so what did he do?
Double down.
Yep. You think my dad was hard, I'm going to be twice as hard. And so they said, that's it. And that's where the civil war begins. The country will split. In the south, Judah, which is the house of David, stays loyal, but the other 10 tribes, basically, 10 and a half, say, we're done with you. We'll get another king that doesn't tax us. This is insane. And so the great united kingdom of Israel lasted 2 generations. And Solomon is going to talk to us about what? Oppression. Oh, okay. So this is what I mean. You really, you got to know what's happening here. Was Solomon wrong? Solomon right? How do you build a country without labor? This is what other people do. Why can't Israel do it? I mean, we're already seeing that Solomon is bringing in a lot of these education, architectural reforms. Where did Solomon get the architects to build the temple? Remember Hiram? No, he's a Phoenician. He's a Canaanite. Oh my gosh, the baby murderers. He brought in to build the temple. So he's bringing in a lot of culture. He's trying to civilize, but with that comes a lot of the sins of other cultures. So what's oppression? And he gets really extreme, doesn't he? It's better off to be dead than to be oppressed. I may have built a great temple, but man, the people that built it, it'd been better if they hadn't been born. What's he doing? What's Solomon trying to take us through to think about?
Don't piss off the help.
Don't piss off the help, yeah. You can do the right thing, you can do a good thing the wrong way. Now, it'd be easier if you just told us that up front. So I don't know if this is a degree of regret. Learn from how I did it badly. But he's got a larger point that he's driving towards here. So this is his first sort of point in the equation. People are terrible to each other. We are. Even presumably people with good intentions can abuse other people. It takes a lot of effort on our part not to be terrible. So then verse 4. Then I observed that most people are motivated to success because they envy their neighbors. Remember back in the 90s when they had all these motivational posters, you put up, hope is eternal, all those things you'd put in the offices. I so desperately wanted to put this, right? What makes a good employee? Someone that's envious. Is that true? Yeah, it's true. Now, with all of this stuff that he does, it's not absolutely true. There's an element of truth, but yeah. We usually decide to do a little bit more because somebody else has a little bit more. So he's really getting us to think about sort of the real Achilles heel of humanity. I mean, if you go all the way back to Adam and Eve, it was envy that led us to question God because he had something that we didn't. He had this knowledge and this power that we didn't. I mean, what caused the first two siblings to fight? Cain and Abel. Yeah. You got recognition for what you did, Abel, and Cain, who thought all of this up, got nothing. Just reprimanded. Well, forget that. It's a deep, deep thing, and I want to try to be controversial here, because this is what Ecclesiastes is supposed to do. It's supposed to get you riled up. Well, this is true, but I know that this is not true. It's not entirely true. It's that thought process this is trying to get us to think about. So I hear this scripture, one of the popular ones of the Old Testament, a lot, in reference to the United States. So the 2 Chronicles, I know you've heard this, shows up on Facebook all the time. Then, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins and restore their land. So, who is that about? Israel. It was not meant for us. We stretch it and push it, and part of that pisses me off, right? Because we're children too. We got adopted into this. What about us? Why did he pick them first? I'm curious. Who's a firstborn in here? Yeah, so a few. So who's the youngest? Yeah, big babies. Any middle kids? Oh, God, all of you are middle kids. All right, well, it's messed up. So life is a lot different when you're younger, isn't it? I mean, the oldest just have it so good, and they're so perfect and wonderful. And then when you're younger, you're never as good. You can't live up to. It's hard in a sibling relationship. When I think we look at a lot of the struggle that we see in the world that the Jews, Israel has, I mean, there is some envy there. They are the first. They were the chosen for reasons that are never very compelling, right? They were the least of, and they come across as arrogant and pushy, and we're included, but we have to sort of make an extension. Yes, I think if America humbles itself and is true to this, God will restore us. But God has never made a promise that we'll always be in America. I wish He had. I think we're the greatest force for good the world has ever seen. No superpower has ever created empire like us. We bless people, we restore people, we bring peace. We don't destroy and then rip everything out of them until they throw us out. We're not perfect, but we're awfully good when you look at the history. So this is what I mean. I'm trying to shake us loose here, right? That envy shows up in a lot of places, with families, with business relationships, with religious ideas. It's really, really destructive. So 2 things He's done now. He said, people abuse each other, and really we're just motivated by envy. He concludes with his mantra, but this too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. It's Havel, it's Abel, it's just smoke in the wind. So from these 2 observations, we could say people suck and they're just driven by evil intentions. So we should do nothing. But then he flips the script, verse 5. Fools fold their idle hands, leading to ruin. So it would seem like if life is just one giant, lobster fest, right, where they're just trying to pull each other down, don't do anything. But he's saying, that's what fools do. And yet, better to have 1 handful with quietness than 2 handfuls with hard work and chasing the wind. So he's messing with our minds. He's saying, a person that doesn't work is not going to make it. But it's better to have a little bit than to work so hard that you're just full of strife and suffering. And we're lost completely. What's the point to any of this, Solomon? And he finally gets there at 7. I observed yet another example of something meaningless under the sun. This is the case of a man who is all alone, without a child or a brother, yet who works hard to gain as much wealth as he can. But then he asks himself, and this is really interesting because Solomon will shift to the first person. It's suddenly I. And he doesn't do that often. So I wonder in this case if it isn't really I that he's talking about. Who am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It's all so meaningless and depressing. So if you don't have anybody to share it with, if you don't have anybody to pass it on to, why are you doing it? So why did Solomon build all that he did? Why did he try to transform Israel? Why did he bring the buildings and the stables and the harems and the literature and the trade? He has sons, but we read earlier about his sons. Is that who he left everything to? Yep. And what'd the kid do? Crashed it the first time he drove it. What was it all for? It's all meaningless and depressing. So he's trying to paint us into a corner or maybe paint us into a direction. So people are terrible. They're driven by envy, but you can't be lazy. You gotta try to do something. But at the end, if you don't have somebody to share it with, then it really is meaningless. To build up a fortune, to make a nation and have no path for that to go forward, it's just a wasted existence. What is he playing at? What concept is he trying to push them towards here? This is a big biblical one. We talk about it a lot here. It's not just eternity, it's the prelude to eternity. What is the life cycle supposed to be here on earth? Yeah, it's supposed to be tov, right? A tree is great because it has fruit, it has seeds, it passes it on. One of the things that is not immediately apparent to us, this idea of having a second, it's shanayim in Hebrew. It's the second or your successor. They call junior in Hebrew shanayim. So when they're talking about if I have a companion, they were doing the same thing in the Egyptian text, right? That he didn't have his son. His son is his companion. His son is the one that's supposed to follow. Solomon doesn't see that, feel that, know that. And it's meaningless. And so his answer is, man, I probably should just enjoy all my wealth, blow it on more girls and bigger stables and not worry about it. But does that feel right? No. So then verse 9, 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. So this is where 2 people, a companion, Shanayim, a second, a child, an adopted child, somebody that you invest in. I mean, Jesus is following this same pattern when he has disciples. The disciples are his second, his Shanayim. They are what it's all for. He's giving all this teaching to build the kingdom. And Kurt, you're right. This eventually does kind of lead to heaven, lead to eternity. In a larger sense, we're God's second. If you can sort of get that image. Now, we don't become gods or anything like that, but it would have made no sense if he built the world, he built all the animals, all nature, time, space, all that, and then nothing other than himself to realize, wow, this stuff is cool and big and wonderful. We are the second, and we're to have a second. You know, think of it this, we're learning here, we're trying to grow in our knowledge with God. Where does all that go for you? It's designed to help you in how to live your life, but it's also like water. It needs to go somewhere. At some point, you need to share it. At some point, with your kids or your friends or your friend or your business partners, your enemies, I don't know. 2 people are better off for one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person fails, the other can reach out and help. And here, for once, he's being pretty straightforward. This is a better way to live life. If you want to really change the way you behave, share with another person you can trust. Let them hold you accountable. One of the cultural things that the Jews do that it is just what they do. I don't know if it's better or worse. The parts of it are better and part of it's worse. But when they pray, they always have a quorum. And that sounds funny to us. Now, often they'll pray by themselves, but they still pray in a group. So it's individual, but they have to have they call it a mina, a group together. And they're trying to split the baby, right? So it's not you just faking it. It's you having to do it in front of other people, but you also still have that one-on-one with God. That's a little bit of where they're leaning into this. I think it's wonderful to pray to God one-on-one, like Jesus taught us. We can go into our closet, pull our prayer shawl over, and we can go to Him. But it's also very different when you pray with your wife, when you pray with your kids, when you pray with other men. That should be part of our diet too. That second is really, really vital. Even in the rabbinic studies that they do, if you see a disciple, you see a rabbi thanking people, they always thank two people. They thank their teacher and they thank their second. They thank the person that studied with them. So they always have study buddies. From the youngest age, they pick another person that they study Scripture with that, argues with them, challenges them, reminds them, and they do that for the other person. I think that's some good wisdom. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble, which is exactly what Pharaoh was saying. Likewise, two people lying down close together can keep each other warm. Said every teenager to their parent, right? Where did he get that? There's a direct reference he's making here. What did his dad do in his old age? Exactly. King David, in his old age, said, I'm an old man and it gets cold here in Jerusalem. Not really. A little bit like it gets cold here. And he says, boy, I sure need someone to help me keep warm at night. Do you want another blanket? No, I was thinking about a young virgin. You got plenty of old wives. No, they don't keep me warm. Really? Because they're going through menopause and they're like a burning. No. I want a young, fresh. So, he's dying, King David, right? And they bring in hospice. And he's got these young, sweet little things that just cuddle up with him. And man, it was good. So David was a dog. He was a good man too, but he was a dog. And Solomon cannot throw a stone either, right? He's got more wives and concubines than his dad ever dreamed of. And his dad had a pretty great dreaming world. So here is this, two can keep warm. But how can one be warm alone? That is the question. A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. So he's taken us down this line of thought. He wants us to think about this. Yeah, it is better with somebody else. God actually did make us to live in community, right? We all don't just live alone on a hill somewhere. We come together in society, and it's a mess. We cheat each other, we lie to each other, we envy each other, we murder each other, we oppress each other. But we're still meant to be together. So what's the missing parts to all this? You need to have a second. You need to, and through all of everybody, find someone that you really can trust. Now, part of it is our spouses, right? Our helper. It's interesting, the Egyptian they use is very close to the Kenegdo Ezer, which is what they call women in Genesis, the helpmate. But you need friends. You need hunting buddies. You need people to talk about football with. You need somebody to complain about your wife with. You need, we call it fellowship. My dad, I don't know. My dad has gone to coffee his entire life. He's got pancreatic cancer, a very young wife. He's 80, and still every morning he gets up and goes to coffee. And I've been to those coffees. All they do is lie. The lies that come out of that are amazing. But for my dad, it's almost a reason to exist, right? And this is an old El Paso joke, but we don't have Village Inns here. It's a restaurant chain, breakfast chain. And El Paso, they call them the Village Inn crowd. But it's all these old men that go in and sit in Village Inn, and they drink 2 cups of coffee for 2 hours. As much as I thought that was crazy as a kid, it's what Solomon is pushing us towards. He's saying, look at the world. It's not good. And what's more, we're not good. But there can be goodness found. And it's reaching out to someone else. And I want to the historian in me wants to do this real quick. Solomon did an interesting thing, and this is what we're talking about. This wisdom literature was out there, and everybody was using it, but when Solomon brings it in, he changes it. So they're using the form, but the content is different. This whole double chord, triple chord is part of the wisdom literature, and it goes way, way, way back. I've talked about some of the Egyptian stuff. Babylonians are doing it too, long, long before Israel. And Solomon seems to have picked this up from them, this double chord thing. So this is the Epic of Gilgamesh. And if you know history, I mean, this is way, way, way back. But the hero of the Gilgamesh epic, Gilgamesh is kind of like a Hercules, a hero, but he's telling his brother, his companion, stop, Enkidu. The second, so they're using it the same way, the companion will not die. The towed boat will not sink. No one can sever the threefold cord. So it sure sounds like what Solomon is saying. But what is Solomon saying? So we've gotten the second in all of this. Who is the third? Yeah. And now you have just discovered how Ecclesiastes works. He's taking you through all of this. He didn't tell you, hey, life's terrible, make a good friend, and oh, by the way, you need God. That's not the way this stuff works. That's why it's so challenging. He says, you know what? I'm a grumpy old man in the coffee shop, and I'm going to complain about this. And then I'm going to complain about this. And then I'm going to tell you I'm depressed. And all along you follow him, and you think, well, that's right, that's not right, that's right. Oh, okay. And he's led you to this place that we do need somebody else. And we need a third. I need that which really makes the cord unbreakable. And to me, it has great weight because he is, on paper, probably the most successful, certainly in wealth, king Israel ever had. And yet, he still knows oppression because he did it. He still had to deal with his enemies like his father. He's still got kind of a lascivious nature like old dad. But at the end, he longs for a real companion, and he needs God to sort of seal that. You know, it's interesting. I don't think Solomon has as good a relationship as his dad had with Bathsheba. There's no great wife for Solomon. Yeah.
So do we know how many kids Solomon had? I never hear about that.
No, and I could piece it together. He does have a lot. But again, there's never like a David-Solomon connection. I mean, you see Jeroboam, it's kind of I keep saying that, Rehoboam. He's a dud.
You would think maybe by having the children, he wouldn't think this way, just some way, but...
Yeah. Think about why he's writing this. Wisdom literature is written between a father and a son. He didn't dedicate this to his son. He opened it up to all of us. That's an interesting take. How are we doing? Ooh, I got to stop.
This 2 and 3 definitions, it's really written covenant, marriage, all.
Yes. That the third chord is God, whether it's between a man and a woman, or I think friendships that are based on God. That's really where he's pushing it. He doesn't talk about woman folk in this regard, other than they can keep you warm.
I'm going to throw this out there for you to just puke all over it. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
God created all of this for us. He created us for him. But he allowed Satan into it, thus oppression. We're seeing that echoed here.
Yeah.
Am I out in left field?
No, I think you're doing exactly what Ecclesiastes wants you to do. You're thinking it through. Part of the oppression comes from Satan, although everything he's listed, it's coming from us.
We're not perfect yet.
Agreed.
There is restoration to come.
Yep. So they talk a lot about the loneliness of men in today's society, and I think it's part of they just want to pick on us. But, it can be hard to have good friends when you're middle-aged, I'll say. You don't have a college buddy like you should. You got work, you got family, you got responsibilities. If your kid's in sports, all that. Hopefully, if you hear anything from Ecclesiastes today, hear this. It's good to have friends. It really is. And it's even better when God is sort of the center of that friendship. So it's not a wasted time. It's not, I should do this with a family. I should do this at work. Life is not meant to be lived alone. As they said in Genesis, it's not good for man to be alone. That's not just a wife. Anyway, sorry we went long. Any other questions?
I actually heard it said that Jesus' true miracle that he had 12 close friends in his 30s.
Right. No, that's a great way to say it. And one was a screw up. Well, actually, they all were screw ups, but one was a traitor. Yeah. So is Ecclesiastes, is it coming? I mean, it's hard stuff, isn't it? It's not a direct approach to our problem. I think you could rewrite this in a straightforward way and it'd be a chapter long. But the warning is don't take any of these, it's all meaningless, who cares, at face value. You need to work through it like he's trying to get us to do. All right, let's pray. Gracious Lord, we thank you that in truth we have never been alone. As much as we have felt it, as many mistakes as we have made, as much as we have listened to the other side, you have never not been with us. Forgive us that we don't recognize it. Some days we don't even want to hear it. But we know that one of the most dangerous things that we will encounter are other people, or are even ourselves. So help us, O Lord, to remember our rejection this morning. Solomon's not right about this. He's not right about that. Help us to know that you are that which is right. When things seem to be coming apart, fraying at the center, our marriage is not what it should be. Our business partnerships are based on envy. Help us to remember this scripture and strive to return with you to a place where our relationships are something different, because the one holding us together is you. Help us to find a second in our life Whether it's reaching out and connecting with our kids in a new way, connecting with our wife in a